What's up everyone, it's Joey from the Commander's Lair here. Today I'll be going over some of the backgrounds that have been released from Commander's Lair, which is effectively a new mechanic. It's sort of like partner, but not really, more closer to partner with. So basically some commanders will have choose a background on them, and so if a commander has that on it, basically you can pick a background, which are a different creature type. It's basically an enchantment. It's a legendary enchantment that's subtype is background. And it's so basically then they have it. It can be a background to each any commander you have that has a background. So it's sort of like partner with because there's only like a certain amount of combos that can be with them. It's sort of like partner as well. So basically, you just get an additional color. So there's kind of different colors to your commanders. I'll show you a couple in a minute, but basically that's kind of how the whole mechanic works. And they all have different abilities that don't necessarily synergize with any other commanders, but that's basically how the whole ability works. I'm going to basically going to go over every one that has been spoiled at this time in English at least. Some of there's one that got released that isn't in English yet. I'll be going over all backgrounds that are out right now that I can show you guys. So I'm going to be blind reacting to this because I think it's going to be more interesting so I can kind of see the cards just as you guys see them. So our first card is Criminal Past. It's 2 and a black, so legendary enchantment background. So just first off, I haven't read the card yet. I like this because it's kind of black to any deck any commander that has backgrounds. So I think that's kind of cool because obviously black's my favorite color. I like adding that into the game. Anyway, it has commander creatures you own have menace and get this creature gets like slow where X the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So this is obviously some sort of a Voltron thing because it can give your creature commander menace. Otherwise, you can just play this in a graveyard deck as a bit of a finisher. So obviously it has to be played on your commander, so you can't put it in any other creature. I'm struggling to think what kind of a deck this could go in. Like I have a Tasker graveyard deck that'd be okay. Probably a Mimeoplasm. This would be really great in a Mimeoplasm deck because obviously you can make commander big and then make it even bigger amount of creature cards in your graveyard. I think this slots in perfectly to a Mimeoplasm deck. Other than that, maybe old stick fingers with stuff in your graveyard that could be decent. Just any kind of graveyard deck I feel like want to play this. It seems pretty powerful. 3 mana is not bad. I guess if your commander is doing it, because it doesn't have to be played as a background. It can just be played as a regular card in a deck. Otherwise, I think it'd be good in one of those decks. So coming up next, we have Cultist of the Absolute. So this is just 1 black mana for legendary enchantment background. Commander, you creatures you control will get +3/+3. Have flying, death touch, ward, pay 3 life, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. Obviously this is another kind of Voltron black card. So the ward, so pay 3 life basically means if your opponent wants to target with a spell, they have to pay 3 life in addition to that, otherwise counter the spell. So that's pretty decent. I'm not. I don't believe. Having a quick look over them, none of the commanders that choose backgrounds really have a very strong or at least that have been released so far, really have a strong kind of Voltron theme, so I'm not really sure that this would go into any of those decks per se again. Otherwise, one mana of +3/+3 is obviously incredible. So flying and death touch is obviously incredible keywords. They're going to be able to sacrifice a creature, so you might just be playing this in a sacrifice deck, so something like Core Vault. He already has flying, but if you do all the other abilities, that's obviously a Voltron attack a deck that plays with sacrifice. So that'd be a perfect example. Otherwise, Mazarek might be decent for this, or there's a card from I believe the new Zendikar that does this. That would be good as well. Basically, any cards like this that would do that kind of effect are really useful. And in addition, something interesting to kind of note here is that these are enchantments, they're not auras. So you don't have to cast on your creatures. If you can't play this and your commander dies, and you can just play your commander again, this doesn't have to leave the battlefield. This will just stay there. So the entire time, it kind of just stays on for any static effect whenever your commander enters. Or I guess if you steal a commander from your opponent, it would also affect it as well, which would be nice. So coming up next, we have Hardy Outlander. It's 1 in the green for legendary enchantment background. It has commander creatures you control you own, my bad. Have whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponents had more life than that player, another target creature you control gets +X until end of turn where X is that creature's player. So I guess it's kind of good for attacking the highest powered creature on the highest life total player on the board. So that's not bad. Effectively, you probably just always want to attack that person, and it just doubles the double creature power and toughness. So it has a Xenagos effect, or I guess Mithra or Feo from the new deck. It does similar to that as well, based on their power. So that's also obviously really powerful. Any kind of greener deck that you're going to be attacking. So I just mentioned Corvold, that is probably go great in that deck. So obviously again it only triggers new commander, so it's another Voltron commander theme. So any deck that has green in it that's a Voltron, this slot perfectly into that. I guess that's pretty much what you're gonna be doing with this. Rule the Miststalker. That's an old one, but that's also not bad. Just any deck like that, I guess, would want to play this card. So next coming up, we have Noble Heritage. It's 1 and a white, and its commander creatures you own have when this creature ETBs at the beginning of your and at the beginning of your upkeep, so it triggers twice. That's nice. Each opponent or each player may put 2/1 counters on a creature they control. For each opponent that does, you gain protection from that player until your next turn. So this is sort of like what's the card? Orzhov Advocate, because no, that one's at the beginning of your upkeep. I think each player puts 2/1s on a creature. I think it's only one creature though, and then they can't attack you with that creature until your next turn. This is obviously much better. So any kind of political deck, so bring to the Demagogue, that whole precon of Strixhaven that was Orzhov was all about this kind of theme. So Shadrick Civiquil as well, I think it is. It would probably go well on that deck. Basically, it triggers when ETB or upkeep, so it triggers quite often as well, and it's only one creature again, so they can only pick one creature, but you gain protection from that entire player. So they can't attack you, they can't... Well, they can't... That's actually quite... From a player, they can't attack you. They can't target you with stuff, basically, I believe what that is. So it's sort of like a two-race protection, but only for that player, unless obviously all players pick it, which I doubt they would. Additionally, you can put this on your own creatures for no loss. So it basically, at the very least, this is whenever your commander enters or at the beginning of your upkeep, you put 2/1/1 counters on the creature you control. For 2 mana, this is incredible. I think this card pretty much goes in any white deck that can slot it in. It's even better in political decks, but literally any white deck, I feel like this is pretty much an auto-include if you want to be making something big. Even if it's a bit of a go wide deck, you can still probably get value off that. This card's really, really good, actually. So coming up, we have Raised by Giants. It's 5 and a green, so it's really expensive. It's the most expensive one, I think. Commander creatures you own have base, power, and toughness 10/10 that are giants in addition to other types. So this is really interesting because it's just another Voltron one. So it's the same as both of the black ones and the other green one. This is just a Voltron type thing, because obviously no triggers to your commanders, so it has to be Voltron. It's really powerful, obviously. 6 mana for 10/10 is really useful. So any kind of, again, I don't want to mention Corvold again, but Corvold or any other Voltron kind of deck, I mean, I guess any kind of commander at 10/10 would be quite good, but Corvold puts counters on himself, so any kind of commander that's putting counters on or growing its own power, this would be definitely really good in that. I guess it's really similar to the other ones, actually. The only difference is there would be a commander that needs to be growing itself. I guess that old Sylvos Rogue Elemental, that's a mono green commander. Or Ayumi, the one that has Legendary Landwalker, might be good in that. It's the same as any of the others, though. Any kind of commander that has green in it that's going to be a Voltron, that's probably going to be useful. So lastly, we have Scion of Hallister, I think. It's 1 and a black for, and it has commander creatures you own have. The first time you would draw a card each turn, instead look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one into your graveyard and the other back on top of your library, then draw a card. So this is really useful, obviously. If any of you guys have ever played a graveyard deck or a mill deck, this is really nice. So Merrin, this will be really good in. Tasigur, Muldrotha, any of the ones I kind of mentioned earlier again, actually. And because obviously you get a freeze draw, or so the first time you would get, I'm guessing, your draw step, you get to draw and you get a card in your graveyard, so it's just kind of effectively, it's a bit of card selection, but realistically this is basically 2 mana, and then the first card you draw, or basically because 2 mana mill a card each turn. This isn't very good. The effect's kind of nice. I think this is a bit of a niche card. If you're playing a background or commander that can use a background, that you may as well play this. There's no reason not to, I guess. But otherwise, I don't think this is one of the less powerful backgrounds. Either way, it's probably playable. I probably wouldn't play this in any of the graveyard decks that I have, at least. But it's not a terrible card. Okay, that'll do it for today, guys. I'm sorry this video was a bit weird because these backgrounds are sort of odd because they can pair with so many different commanders. I'm not going to be going over all of the commanders that have choose a background. And also, like, they do really specific effects, and a lot of them do the same kind of thing, so it's kind of hard to go over them. And they really, really weirdly, and none of them synergize too well yet, at least with the commanders that have released. So, I think they're definitely an interesting thing to play around with. Definitely useful for adding new colors to your deck and opening up the deck and maybe adding a bit more synergy. Even if you're not playing a Voltron deck, I'm sure that you'd still want to use Raised by Giants to make your commander a 10/10 to add another color to the deck. There's no reason not to. They're not bad cards. I think it's an interesting mechanic. I do like Partner With. I'm not a fan of Partner too much, but I think Partner With is cool. Um, this could just definitely just be an interesting little kind of mechanic, just extra value. Probably made for draft. It's not too bad. If you guys want to see more spoilers, though, let me know. If you would like me to not do blind reactions, or if you wanted me to do blind reactions more as well, I can do that. There are obviously a lot of cards to spoil. I found it really hard to figure out what video to do with these spoilers because basically it's really broad. There's too many commanders to do in one video, and there's too many new cards to do. And there's the reprints are alright, I guess. But yeah, so if there anything specific that you guys want to see, or again, obviously as always, if it's a deck you want to see, let me know and I can make a deck for you. Otherwise, thank you guys all so much for listening, and I'll see you all next time.